Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Again, my name is Eugene Saturov, and I'm a Flutter team lead and Flutter developer at Surf. I'm from Russia, as German already mentioned, and to be honest, that is my first English talk ever. So thank you for having me on your meetup, and let's go. Here on this slide, you can see a map, and on this map, you can see where I am. And there are something about 8,000 kilometers between you and me, between Singapore and Russia. So good morning, everybody. We have 10 a.m. here now. And let me say a couple of words about my company. Surf is middle-sized mobile development studio, and we are focusing on building mobile solutions for business. Most of our clients are banks and big e-commerce services, big e-commerce companies. And the most of our history, we did only native mobile applications, both for Android and for iOS. And we never had a single cross-platform application in our portfolio, but then Flutter appeared. And what about me? Personally, in addition to my main job, I'm also a hoster of a Flutter Dev podcast. This is the only Russian podcast about Flutter and everything what surrounded it. Moreover, I'm a program committee member of Mobius. Mobius is the largest mobile conference in Russia, and feel free to apply your papers. We'll be happy to see you in Russia with your talks. Finally, I'm a Google developer group leader in my hometown in Voronezh. We're organizing meetups, workshops, dev fests, and so on. So, what we are going to talk about today. First, we need to find out what challenges are standing on the way of a newbie Flutter developer, everything that you're probably afraid of thinking about. Then, we will decide that the only way to achieve the goal and to get to the top, to become a good Flutter developer, is to systematize all this knowledge about the framework and to try to present it in some kind of visual form. I will show you what we did. And finally, I will cover such a topic as being an open source contributor because, surprise, this can really push your level up and inspire you for the next movements. And I will show you our self-made Flutter library set with an examples. I will show you our architectural framework. Okay. 7 months ago, my life changed dramatically because before I was Android developer for 5.5 years. And it was not an easy decision to switch to Flutter, but an amazing time after it because everything was completely new for me. Everything was unknown for me, despite I'm still a mobile developer. And the plan was pretty clear, was crystal clear for me. I need just get more practice and get some deep knowledge of the language and the framework. What I really need to learn is Dart as a language and Flutter is a framework, and nothing else. How wrong I was. Then everything changed drastically when I got my first iOS build crash for some unknown reason for me. I ran Xcode for the first time in my life. I never did it before. Press different buttons. Something happens here and there, but I had really no idea what to do and how to fix this issue we experienced. The next week, we got an issue with a Swift code because we used third-party library for handling permissions, for handling runtime permissions on Android and iOS. And of course, this library, this package had an issue connected with Swift part. And that was my first Swift lesson because, yeah, you know, Swift looks similar to Kotlin and to other modern languages, but you can hardly write anything acceptable without knowing the core principles, syntax, without understanding the basic concepts of this language, because you have really a lot of questions about what's going on in this code and you don't know nothing about it. And finally, I don't want to remember my first try to deploy iOS applications to TestFlight, to Firebase app distribution. For those who ever tried to do it without being iOS developer originally, you probably know what I mean. All these provisioning profiles, certificates, test flights, whatever, I don't know, pod install command. Sometimes it seemed to me that all of this was invented by the devil. And it became pretty clear for me that it won't be that easy. And surely I need to leave my comfort zone and to get some knowledge in some really new areas for me personally, such as iOS. And it's really not enough to keep in touch with Flutter and Dart. You should at least understand the basic concepts of all platforms you are targeting on. For example, Android and Kotlin or Java, iOS and Swift or Objective-C languages. You shouldn't be afraid of the process of deploying applications. You should be familiar with such tools like Google Play, Console, App Store Connect, TestFlight, and so on. And I think you all know that Flutter is not just a mobile cross-platform framework. And I hope that in the close future, I will see a rise of Flutter for web and Flutter for desktop. Just imagine how cool it would be to be able to build applications for all of these platforms from the single code base in a click. But every new target platform will surely add complexity to your project and will make even more demands on the depths of your experience, because now maybe you may not know nothing about web technologies or desktop operation systems, and that's probably your next step. In my company, typical Flutter developers look like this guy. This is Flutterman at Surf. Yeah, I know that one single person can be specialist in all of these areas, but this is just an aggregated image of all of our 12 members of our team. We have one of the largest Flutter teams at our country. And as you can see, the core of our team are Flutter developers, a really huge amount of them, because at least every Android developer at Surf sometimes dream about throwing it all away and became a happy Flutter developer. And 8 of our 12 developers have Android background in the past. But we also have guys who previously did React Native applications, JavaScripters, even backenders or Delphi developers. That's really amazing how different people with completely different background can share their opinions on the same things and being a part of one single team. And at the Tennisphere that provides us ready-made Flutter developers, I really don't know nothing about it, because every developer in our team are ex-someone. But at this moment, you might ask yourself, stop, okay, that's great, but what should I do to become a good Flutter developer? And you're the lucky guys, because there are a huge variety of ways now. You can start some video courses, you can buy some books, you can go through some paid practical courses, which you can find everywhere in the internet right now. Even Googling and surfing around the web is an option for you. And of course, official docs, because Flutter has really perfect documentation that can teach you a lot. If we talk about video courses, I can recommend you try one of Udacity course for free, because it's absolutely free. It is official course from Googlers, from the Flutter team. It's very quick and it's high quality, because all you need to know about Flutter basics, you can find here in this course. Another option for you is the App Brewery course. It is not so expensive, just about $10 US. And unlike the previous one, it's really huge. It has more than 23 hours of HD video included. But some times ago, they released the free part of this course, so you can have tried this. And of course, I can't recommend you anything better than absolutely free official YouTube channel of Flutter, because they have a lot of shows here. I hope I don't need to describe you all of them. You can find these shows here using this link on the slide. If you never saw anything, just give it a try. just just watch something tonight. What about books? Books are not an easy story for me, really, because I'm a big books fan. I know that paper smell and everything, but I can't imagine what a perfect book for such a fast-changing topic as Flutter is. Most of these books are expensive enough, to be honest, but they can share you anything deep knowledges and or even interesting for you that you can't find in free web resources, in Medium blog posts, in Twitter, somewhere else. But if you're still book addict person like me, just take a look on Flutter in Action book, because if you buy an electronic copy of this book, you will get regular updates forever, and that can keep this book up to date for a long time. And of course, code samples, because it is the best way to learn something, is to stop reading about it. It's to stop learning some theory and to get to practice, to start coding by yourself, to implement something really interesting, valuable, useful. And if you have no possibility to start to write Flutter applications, not leaving your current job, not leaving your current company, maybe you have no Flutter projects, you have no Flutter developer position here, but you're very interested in this topic, you can start with digging through the tons of ready-made sample applications you can find following these links, just Googling, or maybe you can implement your own pet project you ever dream about, and to share this pet project with all the community. And this is really great. And yes, okay, I promised you to show our little project that help us systematize all of this big amount of information. Now it's time to do it. Please welcome to Flutter Developer Roadmap. But first, I need to ask a question. Why do we need it? Why do we need to implement this roadmap? And there are a couple of reasons. We had no idea how to grade our developers. We have 12 developers, but we need to know more about their current level and how to help them to push their level up. But we had also no educational course at all. We have educational courses for Android developers, for iOS developers, for project managers, for everybody, but not for Flutter developers because it's kind of fresh technology. And we had not even a plan how to do it, how to implement this course. Because the reason was we never saw a full picture of the whole framework and what's around it. Yeah, I know that documentation is still extremely good and extremely useful and well-structured, but you can walk through from page to page forever and still have no idea what you should learn next and how much things you should learn in future and how much things you already know. And yeah, take a look at this. This roadmap is so huge that there is no way to fit it on a single page of my presentation, but don't be afraid. I'm going to describe it in details on the next few slides, and you will get a link to which you can follow, and you can find this roadmap on the GitHub. It is in early stage of development, but you can already check it out. But now let's roll it horizontally. Yeah, that's much better. And I will cover the main parts of this roadmap here on that screen. Let's start with the biggest part, UI. You can see it in a blue bubble here. I like to think about Flutter as about a UI first framework. And it's not a surprise for me that the most of its complexity is here in this layer, in this bubble. Absolutely fantastic numbers of different widgets. Most of them are in two variants, material and Cupertino widgets. All of them, or almost all of them, were systematized in that branch. Widgets, layouts, animations, working with resources and assets, localization, animations, gesture detections, what's more. You can find everything here, and I believe that you should at least know the basics of every topic I mentioned before to be able to build quality applications using Flutter. And there are some extra parts in this branch, like custom rendering and custom layouting. They are not mandatory for you on your first step, but they also they also can be really useful for you in the future. The next section you can see on the right side in a green bubble contains everything you should know to build a business logic part of your application. All about asynchronous separation handling, all about networking requests, and response parsing, mapping to your Dart objects, and so on. And finally, everything about state management and about file storages and data storages in general. You can find here in this branch. On the top, you can see two bubbles, two small bubbles called basics, and another bubble called basics, or called tools and CI. I really can hardly imagine how you can write anything without knowing some basics in mobile development. That can be not so easy for web developers or backend developers, maybe. But I hope that material design and human interface design guidelines are not just an empty words for you. And what about tools and CI? In my opinion, you should really be familiar with some tools that helps you to develop applications like Android Studio, Xcode, VS Code. You should understand the concept of Gradle build system, Xcode build, and a lot of other platform-specific tools. And of course, you should keep in mind what is the most useful CI/CD tool for your project, because you have different alternatives now. CodeMagic, for example, which is paid but absolutely perfect and easy to use. Or Jenkins, which is free, open source solution, but can take your time and can need some more resources to run. And I missed one thing that is small, but very, very important. It's called internals. And you should really know nothing about internals on your first step. And you can develop perfect quality applications using Flutter without knowing how it really works under the hood. But if you want not just being another Flutter developer, but became a really valuable specialist, you should probably try to dive deeper and to know something about Dart virtual machine and Flutter internals. You can find some information in this branch. So, but don't be afraid, please don't be afraid, because I'm gonna, because I recommend you to take into consideration that the goal is not to cover everything at once. It's impossible, I suppose. It's absolutely impossible. So I provide you a mini version of this roadmap on this slide, and it contains only top level nodes of every branch, and it allows you to find your starting point in any of your desired knowledge area you want to level up yourself, and you can start digging by yourself in the right direction. And you can separate this roadmap on two parts. The left side called framework, and you can find everything that I mentioned before. And the right side is basics and tools. And you can find really a lot of information about testing your applications, adding Flutter parts to your native applications, both Android and iOS. You can find some information about writing platform-specific code, about all these method channels, and so on. So Flutter Developer Roadmap is free for everyone. It's fully open source. As I mentioned before, it is in early development stage. Some parts of it still written in Russian, but we will translate it as soon as we can. And that's great that you can use as you want. You can modify it as you want. You can download file that you can open in different software like FreeMind. FreeMind is an application that is completely free for everybody, and you can run it on macOS, on Windows, on Unix, everywhere you want. And you can modify it. You can add your own branches. You can remove branches you don't need. It's really interesting what you can do with that, and if it can be useful for you. So I will be glad for everybody who will bring me some feedback about it. Maybe not just after this talk, but in the future. I will leave you my contacts, and you can write me directly anytime you want. Okay, but what about open source? At the very beginning of my talk, I promised you to tell how contributing to open source projects can push you level up, and it's now time to do it. But again, you can ask me, why do I need to spend my time on it? To spend some time doing some strange things for some strangers, for somebody who you will never know personally, for free. Yeah, you will get no money for that. I will ask you why. There are a couple of reasons I really like, because as for me, from my point of view, being an open source contributor is the easiest way to start doing something by yourself. Even if you're not a professional Flutter developer, even if you're working with some other technologies, you can every time do whatever you want, and you can start your own pet project, maybe open source project, and to improve your skills in the desired technology. Another reason is that being an open source contributor is the fastest way to get valuable feedback from the community, because you really you know that we all building some tools for us that helps us in our everyday life. We're all sometimes writing some libraries, useful packages we reuse between our projects, but it always takes a lot of time to test these packages, to find the right solutions, to find all edges that we need to cut. And that community, people in community can quickly become testers of your solution, and also absolutely for free. They can find a lot of bugs you'll never notice and issues, and they can report them to you or even fix it. You can merge their pull requests they made to your repository, and it's great, I think. And another reason, but not the last, that working on the open source project is the shortest way to improve your skills in technologies you never tried before, because we never had enough freedom in technology stack selection at work. Sometimes we work with legacy code base we actually hate, but in our own project, we are free to select technologies and do whatever you want with these technologies. But not only this. We have also another reasons to make open source solutions in our company, because we at Surf involved in this process nearly every day, and it can really give us profit. I talk about money and time, because we at Surf work on a huge number of different applications at the same time. We have 12 developers, as I already mentioned, and we suddenly spend a lot of time solving the same issues again and again and again and again between projects. And this is frustrating thing. We don't need to spend so much time on solving the issues that were already solved in the past in another project. We need to share our code base. We need to share our experience. It's not the way we can work effectively. We need to reuse things. And building an open source solution is the way that you can do this. And this how Surf Gear appeared. Surf Gear is a library set of packages for all occasions you can imagine in your Flutter developer life. You can follow this link. I think I will share the presentation after this meetup for everybody. You can click this link on every slide. and you can take a look by yourself on this repository. Sorry, but this repo is also in an early development stage now, but some descriptions and docs are still not written or written in Russian, but you can find also English documentation in some of the packages, but this surely will be fixed soon. And on the next two slides, you can see the full list of all of our packages. And I need to notice you that all of these links are clickable. You can follow these links and go to the repo of all of these packages. And we also have plans to make repo more developer friendly in a close future. We will make GitHub pages using Flutter for web, maybe in a week or two. By the way, I have a question for all of you listening and watching to this live translation. What packages of this list do you want to know more about? Maybe something you're interested. I can prepare another talk about using them specifically and come back to you if German will invite me again someday. So feel free to write it on Facebook or YouTube. Yeah, this is another slide with the second part of our packages list. I'm going to tell you about 3 of these packages next slides. I'm not going to tell you about all of them because I need at least 3 more time slots during this meetup to have enough time to describe all of them. We have no such slots. And my favorite packages are analytics package. You can see on the first slide. Another useful package is DataList. And the third is maybe the most important package for all of our developers at Surf is MWWM. Yeah, this is not a mistake because it is a variety of MWWM architectural pattern, but we translate it like model, widget model. And this is the basic core package that is in the basic layer of all of our application we build at Surf. But first, let's talk about analytics package. I really love the idea of this package because it solves the important problem of high complexity that different analytics services can bring to your code base easily. I saw a lot of projects with not a single analytics services included. For example, Google Analytics and Firebase Analytics, or Amplitude and Firebase Analytics, or something else I never heard before with Firebase Analytics. And this library is supposed to work to unify work with various analytics services, and the main actors are analytic action performer, and analytic service you can find here. First of all, let's talk about analytic action. This is class that you can extend from to implement some valuable action that your user can go through while using your application. Usually, it's like this button was pressed, or the screen was opened, or something else. This is types of event, but the main all of these actions can be handled by analytic action performer. And here we come to the second part. We need to implement analytic action performer to be able to perform all of our actions, no matter if we have a single analytic service integrated to your application or not. Because a performer of specific actions used to encapsulate work with a certain analytic service. You can have one of them, you can have a couple of them, you can have tens of them, typically implemented by transforming analytic action into required formats and finally calling a send method of a third-party library of your analytics service or its analog. And finally, analytics service is a unified point for several analytic action performers. Okay, this was quick introduction into this package. You can find more details following this link. Next, another nice package for me is DataList. It is really easy conception. This package provides us a new data structure with some kind of smart collection with pagination support. And here you can see an abstract class data list, which is the basics of two implementations. We have two concrete implementations for offset limit pagination and another for page limit pagination, but they have some common abilities. First of all, you can store your lists in a data, and sometimes you're able to get some information if you can get more data in your paginationable list or not. And another useful methods you can implement into your implementations are merge and transform. Merge bring you an ability to merge new portion of data items after the successful loading them with the original collection, handling all conflicts accurately. This is quite important case, and sometimes you can just forget handling it properly. And even transformations are possible with implementations of transform method. You can transform your collection of items of one type to collection of items of another type using this transform method. Here on the next slide, you can see two implementations. These are just code snippets with the main properties you can work with. On the left side, you can see page count data list implementation. And on the right side, you can see offset limit data list code snippet implementation. That was another quick introduction. And you can find more details following this link on this slide. Feel free to do it and feel free to give some feedback about it. By the way, this package is fully covered with unit tests, so you can be be brave and use it in production. And finally, another nice library and maybe the most important for everybody in our team is MWWM. This is a variation of MWWM pattern, and you can build your application on top of this package, because this package brings you all abstractions you may need to build some business logic components, to build some screens with high complex business logic and data flows. So I will make another quick introduction. I have no time to talk about every detail of our architectural pattern, because this is a topic for another separate talk for 30 or 40 minutes. But now I can only introduce you this package. We can 3 layers in our architectural pattern. The first layer is widget, another is widget model, which is tied to the widget layer, and the third is model. Okay, and MWWM in general is based on principles of clean architecture, and it consists of these 3 parts. First part is widget. Widget is a representation layer, and widget usually contains only UI-related code. It can't contain any business logic. Only super simple logic like if is loading state true, show loader. In case that it false, show content or error. Only this kind of logic you can find here in the widget layer. And what you can find in this layer is just a simple widget trees, declarative UI. I have really nothing to talk about in this layer because it is super standard and you can find similar things in every Flutter applications, no matter what architectural patterns they are based on. But the more interesting part is widget model layer. Widget model is a layer that handles and accumulates all data needed for our widgets. Because from one side, there are objects of the domain layer, scroll positions, text field values, animation states, etc. And from another side, we have user, which can tap on the button, which can scroll the screen, which can swipe something, which can pull to refresh your data, which can stop your application finally, I know, whatever. And we need to handle all of these input events and to change our data layer some way. Yeah, and the model is the third layer, and it is the most complex and interesting for me because model is a link between widget model and the external world. What I mean by external world, a lot of different things. For example, data sources, services, servers, another abstraction layers, another applications, another process on your device, I don't know. This layer allows you to develop both separately and have possibility to modify one layer with no need for changing the other. And where is complexity, you may ask me? And another useful package I never mentioned before, called relations, fits good with this MWWM package because we have two kinds of relations we can use for systematizing and structuring our business logic flows. First called change and another called performer. You can really implement any change you want, and you can really implement performers for handling these changes. But what's actually change is? Change is a signal to model, which means that we want to do something, that we want to achieve something. For example, we want to make a network request before user swipe and pull to refresh. But change know nothing about how actually to do that action. We know only intention. Change can handle some properties or can handle no properties. Depends on the case you use it. But what is performer? Performer is a guy who knows how to achieve the change we want to achieve. And the performer need to react on some changes that we need to intend from widget model to our model layer. So performer, you can think about it like about small interactors, like about small pieces of business logic that you can implement, that you can test properly, and yeah, this is super easy and super clear, I think. But I think that we have no time to get into the all of the details. We can discuss about MWWM package, and you can see code samples following this link. You can build your own application with MWWM in the basic layer, and of course you can feel free to share your opinion about it, to give me feedback about it. And it was an extremely quick introduction to what our framework can help you with. Feel free to text me, to direct messages anywhere on Facebook, on Twitter, or you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can write me in Telegram using my nickname. I will answer your questions if you will have some. And now, thank you for attention.
Yeah, thank you, Eugene. I think we have a few questions.
Okay, I will try to answer if I can.
Fernando, would you recommend to learn Flutter without programming background?
Why not? Why not? I think that Flutter concept is more clear than native mobile frameworks. I know that Android framework is rather complex for newbies, but Flutter is not so complex. And I know examples when guys made courses for children, and they try some Flutter applications. They do some simple screens. They make some navigation from screen to screen. It looks super cool for me, and yeah, I can recommend you to learn Flutter without programming. But it would not be so easy. You should certainly you should learn your language first of all, and maybe you should start with some kind of more simple languages like Java. I don't know. I like Java, and then move to Dart. Up to you.
Okay, and I think we have one more last question. Maybe very, very quickly, you can just give ideas where to look into. So the question is, what is the difference between standard map and transform in DataList package, and how the merge method merges lists? Is it using some primary key or some another way?
Yeah, okay, let's start with the second part. What about merge method? It depends on your implementation, but if we speak about our implementations in our two cases, yeah, we need some way to detect the unique items that can prove us if there are any conflicts in these parts or not. Yeah, we use, let me remember, we use hash code to detect these items. So we need, we don't need some primary keys actually for that. We can compare some items between each other and then decide what part of list we need to merge and what part of the list we need to cut. And another question about transformation. Transform. You can really use map function if you want. This was this package was ported from Kotlin, and we need that function for some reason there. But this is just an alternative for the map function, and you feel free to use whatever is more comfortable for you.